Right now, on my table, it's going boom, boom, boom. And do you know why it's going boom, 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 boom? It's because I've got the new 2024 Soundcore Motion Boom. Bow! What are you talking about? It's just the Motion Boom. That's what I thought. But do you know what happened? I'll tell you what happened. You've been telling me for quite some time, some of these some of the, say, current versions, although should be the same version of the old classics like Soundcore Motion Boom, Soundcore Motion Plus. They are the two you tell me about most, and the one you tell me about the most, not quite sounding how I describe it, is the Soundcore Motion Boom. And I've been thinking for a while, do you know what, I should have a look into this. And then I noticed Mr. Dominic Reviews. He had a video up recently, and apparently it was 3 months old. And do you know what it was? He was saying how bad the Motion Boom is, making me seem really, really stupid for saying this is still almost, not quite, but nearly the pound-for-pound world champion. Of course, the pound-for-pound world champion right now. Things are heating up in the sort of moderate to kind of moderately big boombox kind of sector. We won't go into that later. You probably already know what I'm talking about. But that would be a first, wouldn't it, if you knew what I was talking about? I would be actually really, really surprised. Remember what you're doing now? It's a video about the Motion Boom. It should be really, really quick to tell you, is it the same as it used to be? Because that is the giveaway of the video. The point of the video is the Motion Boom that they're selling now the same as the Motion Boom? Look at that. Look at that. It's brand new. Well, not quite. Obviously, it's seen better days, but this is the one I've been using mostly. These are my original versions. I think this was 2020, 2021 original versions. Got that warm, deepish sounding bass that belies its size and its weight. And its incredible price, 65 quid today, 65 quid audio. If you're in America, and most people in America that watch me, $85. Wow, that's a bargain because it's the former pound-for-pound champion. And look at the size and what do you say it does? And then, but now you're saying, oh, you don't know what you're talking about. Well, so what? Well, that's your opinion. Me mum says I do know what I'm talking about. And that's the opinion I go with. But the point is, I did mention before, anecdotally, you're telling me the Motion Boom Plus passive radiators are sticking. Why is that a big deal, Al? Well, we don't want them to stick anyway. But the point is, when that Motion Boom Plus first came out, people were going out into moderate heat. And we were getting loads and loads of people saying their passive radiators are sticking and they're having to do an RMA. That it's clearly faulty. And then when Soundcore was still talking to me, they said, oh, Al. I said, what? They said, Al, we noticed you said the passive radiator is sticking and we fixed it. And they said they changed the material. Now, a lot of you were saying, well, it's built up with pressure. Well, it seemed to me it's the material itself. They said the material, and when you heat one side sticks. I did the hairdryer test. 20 minutes to tell you. The point being, you're now telling me again those passive radiators are sticking. Seemingly, they've gone back to the old material. I don't know that for sure. Okay, I'm putting this out there. Anecdotally, it's all what you're telling me and I'm relaying back to you. Isn't it weird that the issue that they said they fixed originally, and they did fix when we tested it, you're now resurfacing. And so that's why I'm starting to wonder about the old classics that I'm telling you about. And then you're saying, you're going on Reddit and saying, what an idiot. I heard it and it's terrible. So when I heard it on Dominic Reviews, and I clearly realised something not right here. So it's so cheap, it's almost a giveaway. I buy another one because what's the worst that could happen? I have these two where I've got a grill because I couldn't get the grill back on, I damaged it so badly. And I pair them together. By the way, as I sit here, I haven't actually tested whether they pair together because things have really changed. And I should have, well, maybe we'll do that in this video. Probably not because I've got to get up in half an hour. So I'm actually going to have to force this to be quite short. She said, I'll get that in early. She said, right, what are we doing? Oh yeah, the Motion Boom. So what can I tell you first of all? I'll tell you what they tell us. They say, incredible sound loved by 20 million plus people for the Motion Boom. What they don't say is, as a brand. That's misleading. Not 20 million plus people have bought that. Extreme outdoor sound. I don't know these days why it's all about outdoor sound. They don't, I mean, so nobody can use it indoors? I don't know. Make a statement with Motion Boom, waterproof, blah, 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 blah. Here we are, 100% pure titanium. They're talking about the drivers, Well, that doesn't say that there, but 100% pure titanium as the drivers. And why do we like the titanium drivers? It's because I can use my meme. Titanium drivers. Boom, 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 boom. Right. Motion Boom's drivers are pure titanium diaphragms. In the old days, that was birth control. But anyway, to reproduce high frequencies up to 40 kilohertz. It's marketing, and by the way, there's no certification on this sender. The Motion Plus had certification to say up to 40 kilohertz because that was for the auxiliary. But there's no auxiliary input on these, so I don't know where that's coming from. And by the way, it doesn't play up to 40 kilohertz. Just know, even if it did, I'm not saying it doesn't, but what I'm actually saying that with the tuning they've got, it doesn't, and you won't hear anything anyway, and music doesn't go up to 40 kilohertz. Blah blah blah. Just know that's one of those things that look good on paper, and it really is meaningless. Absolutely. So then they go on to say IPX7, waterproof and floats. They've even got a picture of it. Obviously, I'll put it up. I'm pointing here of it floating upwards. Why is that misleading, Al? Do you know why? Because it floats like that. So if you think you can actually lie on your lila, which is, to me, it's always the paradise thing. I'm on my lila, I'm in the pool. There's not too many kids, so I can relax, and got my speaker next to me. You'd like it like that, but at least they're showing it in the picture like that, and you can play it, but it doesn't. It will float that way up. So that is misleading. I'll tell you what else is misleading. Go on then, Al. 24 hours playtime. Don't tell you how it's played. I can guarantee if you play that at maximum volume, it will not last 24 hours. If they don't tell you how it's tested, we know it's waterproof. 24 hours. So right, it says it's got a huge one. She said 10,000 milliamp hour battery. We all know that tells us nothing. 10,000 milliamp hours that could be 1 volt. So you've got to multiply it by the voltage to get the capacity. The capacity of it is actually 37 watts, which is a reasonably decent battery. But 10,000 milliamps without the voltage, which they haven't put there, is not the capacity. That doesn't tell you anything. And then it goes on to say, utilising, obviously this has not been updated for, 5 years or something, 4 years. Utilising the latest Bluetooth technology, just know that's not true, because it's Bluetooth 5, not Bluetooth 5.3. Right, well, my first clue to something has changed was when you told me, and then I saw on done reviews. But yes, I know. But the other thing that told me, as soon as I got it, what do we all do? What do we all do when we first get a new one? We like to press it. We like to go boom, boom, boom on the passive radiators. Well, that feels good. Noticeably, now, this one's had a lot of playtime. It's noticeably looser, but then so is that one, which hasn't had so much playtime. And then I do which one I've got? Yeah, right. Stiff, stiff, stiff. As I was touching it, have I got this right? And now I realise I haven't got that. That is stiff, and that is very loose. That is actually even looser. Old version loose, old version loose. I have had, quite a bit of break-in, 48 hours of non-stop playing to break in music, moderate volume, and then properly playing it. And those passive radiators are noticeably stiffer. Does that matter? Well, with all other things being equal, as far as I know, that would suggest the tuning is a little bit higher. It's a tuning change on the passive radiators. So I think we can get straight into it. She said. So, has anything measurably changed? I'm going to show you my frequency response measurements. On both of these versions, the volume steps are pretty linear, but you can see there's a difference in the actual volume we get. So at each equivalent volume step, the latest 2024 version will play a little bit louder. If you A/B an old version and a new version at the same volume step, it will give an advantage to the new version. And the other thing that strikes us immediately is the deep bass we've got on the 2021 version, which is missing on the 2024 version. If we normalize them, get them about the same volume to see the actual differences, we can see lower mids and the bass is bigger on the 2021 version all the way up until at maximum volume. You can see the actual difference is not quite as great as it is because of the way they've tuned it at lower volume steps. But what we do have is 60 Hertz and down. 2021 version has more deeper bass. 2024 version is brighter. Upper mids, treble, there's more of it on the 2024 version. So actual differences
in these speakers because we do have more deep bass on the 2021 version. But the other difference at lower volume to make it sound like it's got the same amount of bass is because they've tuned it a little bit louder at each volume step on the newest version. If you want to see ultimate headroom, custom EQ pushed to maximum, all sliders plus 8 dB, we can see the difference actually isn't as great as it would look in pure default mode. So they narrow up. If you compare 100% to 100% plus custom EQ maxed, we can see the difference is, yes, we do have more highs on the 2024 version, but it's not the same difference as we had in default EQ. This tells us the 2024 version is pushed more heavily than the old version. We can see the bass isn't that different that the tuning at low volumes would suggest between these two speakers, but ultimately 2021 version does have deep bass that isn't there on the latest 2024 version, and I can demonstrate that by showing you where the passive radiators are tuned. The latest version around 60 Hertz and my original version around 53-ish Hertz, and that tells you ultimately you can't get the deep bass that we had on the 2021 version.
Something's happened, something has changed. The passive radiators no longer. So we said it's stiffer. Will that loosen up? I can tell you 5 Hertz of difference in the tuning. What's that? What's 5? Well, depends. 5. Oh, by the way, I've never had that stuck in my face before, she said. Right, I didn't even know I was to say that. And actually, that was quite funny. But you probably, he's being as cheesy as usual. Oh, and by the way, I'm going to have a quick shout out to Ola's Gadgets, who has been taken down, which is extraordinary. Gone. I don't know what's happened there. Just know, when you've put as much work in it, forget all the history, whatever has happened, to put that much into a channel and to lose it overnight. I mean, that would wreck you. That would wreck your head. I couldn't imagine. Even when I don't take this hard serious, this is not something I'm trying to make a living at. But even for me, all that hard work, and then YouTube, for whatever reason, I don't know, it may be a really good reason, but hey, it seems quite dramatic. It's gone. So a shout out to all his gadgets. We're getting startups already. I don't know why he doesn't start another channel. Apparently he's not going to start another channel because they'll say he'll ban him again. Yeah, all these other channels can upload his old videos. And apparently he hasn't got a backup of most of his old videos. So I don't know what's going to happen there, but he's still going. So what was I talking about? Oh yeah, frequency response. Frequency response, it's definitely changed. 5 Hertz of difference. You might think that's not a lot, but that's noticeable, especially the region that it is. So I've got, so it lacks a deeper. So clearly it's tuned different. Now, headroom looks quite similar, except for that bit of the passive radiator. So that little bit in the end, a little bit of the deep bass, so 70 Hertz and down, even at maximum volume, there is an advantage to the original Motion Boom. Clearly difference. But it's not the dramatic difference we hear at other volumes. They've tuned it different. I don't know if they've done that deliberately. You have 2 speakers playing the same thing, but one is one volume step higher than the other. It's going to sound better. It's going to sound more dynamic. That gives it an immediate advantage. Is that deliberate that they've done that? They've tuned it, just each volume step actually plays a little bit higher, even though the headroom is not really there. And even at maximum volume, when you push all the sliders on the thingy-jig that I've talked about in the video, and now I'm talking about it again. I don't know, because obviously I did that earlier, but never mind. I was almost going to say she said, but it doesn't even fit. She said, boom, boom. Oh, that was a good one. She said. Come on, out, get it together. Right, now I've completely lost. Right, I was talking about, the 5 Hertz would be significant, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, I think you got it. I was going to say, and then when it's actually maxed out in the app, there's even less difference in the headroom. That tells you they've really pushed this speaker, which on paper, if you pushed it harder, it's probably not going to hold up so well in the real world. Let's see what happens. So yeah, we've demonstrated there's already a difference. We want to hear what that difference is. Maybe it's a million times better. I don't know. Maybe you're upper bass fan lovers and you like the new tuning, and happy days. So 40% volume.
BBM, very big monetero. Quieren dinero, fundiendo core la que hay, ay, 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 ay. Que no anda corre la que hay, ay, 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 ay. Fundiendo core la que hay, ay, ay, ay. Que no anda corre la que hay, ay, ay.
So the speakers are tuned a bit different. We know that for sure because you can see 2021 version, the lower mids and all of the bass is bigger on the 2021 version, while we've got more highs on the 2024 version. And we know we can't make up for that in EQ because we've already seen the passive radiators themselves are tuned differently.
We said it's got the different tuning. And yeah, we said it's got different tuning. You may, depending on what you're listening to and how good it is and resolving, blah, 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 you may or may not hear the difference. I just, on this bit, 40%, just because I proper loudness matched them so closely that you wouldn't even be able to do that in the real world with the same two speakers. If I play some pink noise, you will hear the actual differences clearer. So the overall tone is different, even if it sounds the same in a track. This is darker, goes deeper. That's brighter, sounds thinner, doesn't go quite as deep, but has a bit more, well, it doesn't have more up bass. It's tuned that way, but anyway, never mind. So obviously, we've loudness matched them. So we've got away, we've removed the differences in the tuning. Old version clearly has 2D decibel. We know the headroom's not going to be there, but for almost every volume step, there will be a 2 decibel advantage to the old Soundcore Motion Boom. Yeah, and I've written down here, it almost looks like a 1 kilohertz still. So it almost looks as though it's deliberate, but we know it's not really deliberate because the passives don't go as deep, so it can't be completely. But what they have done, they have slanted. Well, look, we know this is so at lower volumes. The old one was a little bit muddy. We know we've all stuck it on a custom EQ. Obviously, I'm doing this in the fairest way to do it. And we've made up for some of that. We've made up for some of the muddiness with a bit more clarity. Obviously, at least lower volumes, the thinner, clearer sound, or more pushed highs will probably work for you. We're not pushing it too hard. It sounds a bit clearer. It's probably sounding like what we would have done with a bit of EQ. And that's what they've done. They've tilted everything around 1 kilohertz, so it sounds that much more brighter. The overall tone has changed. But what has gone is you can hear that little bit of low end that makes the original one, the original Motion Boom, quite special. So 40%, we haven't had to push it. We already know they have pushed it even more in the tuning. So 70% is going to be a real test. I have to say, already, I have noticed in the past, I'm not saying it's a perfect speaker, but just remember it came along 4 years ago and there was nothing quite like it, which is why it was pound for pound champion. Obviously, now we've got lots more options, but it's still, the original still sounds really pleasing to my ear if you like a warm sound signature. However, when pushed to 70%, those sort of volumes, it will start distorting. That's what it does. A lot of other speakers will do that. Whether you think that's a trade-off for the deeper bass, that's up to you. However, both now being pushed to 70%, it's going to be interesting, isn't it? It's the same story as we saw at 40%. The mids, lower mids, all of the bass
It's heavier on the old version, but the difference is a little bit narrower. In fact, around some of that upper bass, they are the same, but we know the older version simply has deeper bass that's completely missing on the new version. We know the new version is brighter sounding, and we can see in the green line the greater highs and a peak they've put in, or is there anyway because of the hardware on the new version, around 13 kilohertz.
Kind of similar, because we already know we're going to have more deep bass on the original, and we're going to have a brighter, thinner sound on the 2024 version. I should say, obviously, I did know, I should have said earlier, but I did know earlier, I did show you in the clips, both my originals are on 0.43, and that is their latest update. My new version comes with 0.44. I don't know if some of these differences are just due or not to the difference in firmware, but I would suggest not, because that doesn't explain the passive radiator. And I'll tell you what else has changed. The weights. My original weighed 1,543 grams, and the new one weighs 1,556 grams, and that is a definite difference. That is 13 grams. That's, 13 grams is not going to break your arms if you're holding it in your hand. But between what should be two identical speakers, that is a significant difference, and that tells us they are not identical. Some things have changed, so we know they are different. However, the firmware is also different, and I don't know how much of that difference obviously is down to the firmware. Just to say, the difference now is, other than what we've already said, we've already noted they've clearly pushed that more in the tuning, and it shows now in the amount of distortion you're going to get. That's still listenable, but with obvious distortion, but that's kind of unlistenable, because the distortion is that much worse, and it hasn't even got that pleasing deep bass sound. That distortion, along with a brighter sound, does not gel. That wasn't a good idea, Mr. and Mrs. Soundcore. I don't know why I said Mr. and Mrs. Soundcore, but we do know Anchor rhymes with something quite appropriate. I would say no more 24 hours playtime without telling you people will really believe that. I mean, I don't know how many RMAs are done on the fact that they play at 100% and not getting 24 hours. I get people telling me all that time, why isn't mine playing for 24 hours? And I said, what volume? Like 80% mostly. That's a clue. IPX7, yeah, custom easy Q. Right, so that's the result. They're not the same. They sound different. The new one distorts more. I can no longer recommend you buy the latest version, but if you can get an original and it's running 0.43 and it's saying that is an up-to-date firmware, then it probably is sounding like my old versions. Well, you're probably saying a lot of things, but one of the things you're saying, that geezer again, Reddit, I got it right, he don't know what he's talking about. By the way, not everybody on Reddit is saying that, just a minority of little kiddies. They are mostly kiddies. I feel crazy sometimes when I find out how some of these kiddies are. You assume in your head most people are 20 to 30, and actually most people are in their 30s that watch me. And on Reddit, some of the ones I've been arguing with, 15 years old, and I'm thinking, what am I doing? I'm a grown man. Arguable, I know, but never mind. But yeah, I've moved on. I'm stopping the arguments and all that. Yeah. So you're saying, ow, 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 just EQ it to sound the same. Well, by the way, for me to try and get anywhere near the bass on that one, I'd have to go plus 680 hertz, minus 4 at 150 hertz, minus 2 at 1.2 hertz, minus 2 2.5. No, yeah, minus 2 2.5 kilohertz, minus 3 5 kilohertz, because you have to bring down all that high, and minus 3 9 kilohertz and 13 kilohertz. All that doesn't give you the deeper bass because you can't go past that passive radiator tuning. Just gives you an even more bloated mid bass, and it sounds horrible when it distorts more, and so it's completely pointless. So no, you can't fix that in EQ. So we already know this is no good. What's happening with our the speaker? We've loved and I nearly said something in a prayer, but I won't say that, and I would never cut that out of the edit out. Note to self, right? Maximum volume. What is the real headroom? And this is the point. Playing a proper track is a good test because it's fighting limiters in a way that it's not doing when we do frequency response measurements. That's why a lot of the times it's almost a very little tally. Well, no, I wouldn't say that far, but especially at these headrooms of maximum, the frequency response can flip-flop between a measurement mic and real-world listening.
Nights got away, rocks now dead, nothing left today. This scene, no one gets today. We got to feel the truth. Now it's over.
In default mode, who goes the loudest, X bass on, it's the new version. But the result of that is it distorts more. Interestingly, we can see the difference in bass isn't that huge. It's just that the old version does have deeper bass. We can see it here from 70 Hertz and down. That is missing, that isn't there on the new version. But otherwise, those mids, upper bass, really neck and neck. The difference is the volume steps and the tuning at low volumes. And because of those extra highs, the new version about 1.5 dB louder, but it's all highs. In terms of overall bass, they are about the same. As we can see, the real difference is about 3 dB advantage in terms of that deeper bass for the older version, but you may just find it darker sounding overall. Prefer clarity of the new version, but then again, does distort more.
They both pump a little bit at these maximum volumes where, you know, the limiters are really coming into play. And so when you get a sudden hard kick to the bass with these transients, which can really, on these cheap speakers, obviously, you can't really expect that much. And it does, it's easy to catch catch these speakers out in terms of the limiters not being able to cutting fast enough. You hear that more on the new version. It's more, you have to really listen close to hear the pumping, you know, how the dynamic headroom, how it compresses more with a sudden kick just after that kick as limiters kick in. You hear that's more obvious, the in and out sort of sound with the new one versus the old. If indeed you play at those volumes, and if you do, I mean, it's just, I don't know, we've probably moved on. I mean, I have to finally now say, yes, okay, I'd have to, even though it's not a speaker, I'm going to say, I love it, love it, love, because it's got quite a mono sound, thanks to the one woofer, which they call subwoofer. But yeah, obviously now it is the Boom 2, because I was still saying I would prefer to get the original Motion Boom, because I was listening to my originals. I didn't realize how much it had changed. We know there's variance, but this is not variance. I mean, weight is not variance, is it? I thought it was quite telling that a lot of that is just retuned at lower levels, but they've got inferior hardware to play with, so they're having to push it more, got more distortion. And at the end of the day, the real difference between them is that little bit 70 Hertz and down, where the new one cannot play where the old one can. You could say, well, maybe it's just the one you've picked up, but no, because obviously I've picked this up because you've been, this is exactly what you're describing to me, and you can go on Dominic's reviews video, and you can hear it there as well. So this is really what we're experiencing with the new version. Maybe the 2025 version will be even better. But as Soundcore no longer talk to me, I can only tell you what I'm aware of, and I rely on your feedback to become aware of all this stuff. So that's basically it. I told you the difference is, we know there's like a 13-gram difference in the weight. That ain't variance. As I said, we know the old ones seem to top out at 0.43, and the new ones top out at 0.44. I haven't tested whether they pair together. Right? I ain't got time. Really got to fly in a minute. But that's the only thing I didn't test. I tested the lip sync. This is not it's not a test of actual Bluetooth latency. It's a test of streaming on YouTube lip sync. I get 160 milliseconds on the old one and 183 milliseconds on the new one. I mean, they're both poor, but it's actually worse on the new one. I assume the drivers are the same size. Obviously, SBC only, Bluetooth 5, we said that. So they both do stereo pairing, but only will pair with one other same speaker. They haven't got an auxiliary input. They can be used as a power bank, but it's only a 1 amp out. So that's will only charge at 5 watts. So you'd have to be really desperate to use that. Shall I do she said? Yeah, she said, go on. She talks a lot, doesn't she? Sometimes they're the better ones. Power, it's rated at 30 watts, so this doesn't really tell you that much, but it will charge at 5 volts, 2 amps, so it will charge at 10 watts, but that's not groundbreaking, is it, these days? So it floats, but it'll float that way. We talked about that. And that's about it. That's a wrap. So, yeah, I managed to squeeze it in. One final... That's what she said. That's why I did the video, because I've got to say, you know, if you're saying I don't know what I'm talking about, well, that's because I can't buy the speaker every 6 months to hear what's changed. But you told me, I'm telling you, it's no longer a recommendation. It distorts too much too early. We don't have that lovely deeper bass, which was the whole point. That was the whole point of the Motion Boom Soundcore. That was the whole point of the original Motion Boom. Nothing like it. Still nothing like the original, to be quite honest, at 65 quid. But now we know why it's 65 quid. It's because it's not the original. Things have changed. That's really bad, isn't it? But what can we do? Other than we keep our community going, we let each other know, and we stop arguing with each other. Stop snagging each other off. It's opinions. Someone has a different opinion to you. Sometimes it makes them wrong, but it doesn't make them a horrible person. It just means they've got a different opinion. So come on, let's stop this snagging off, because it's getting really bad in the Bluetooth speaker world. I don't know if it's quite, well, it is the same in the high end. It's just, they do it a bit more eloquently, isn't it? People who can spend 10, 20, 30,000 pounds on speakers are not going to talk to us like kids. I'm not a kid. But I've been talking to a lot of people like kids, and it turns out they were kids, and now I feel really, really stupid. A lot of people said, we already knew that, Al. By the way, a lot of you, well, don't acknowledge the trolls. Okay, I acknowledge every one of you that still supports me, even though I really upload anymore. I will say why. Because I don't enjoy it like I did. It's just too toxic. It's so toxic. And when I was young and had all that energy, I was happy to have a row. But now let me have a coffee and go to bed. We can't have a coffee. I have a hot chocolate and go to bed. That's the stage I'm getting to now. But I still got me ADDEAF. So I've still got some street cred. If I got any, I don't know. I ramble, I talk. I've got 1 minute left, and then I sat here for half an hour. Normally it's an hour and a half, and then I edit that down. Hopefully this will be an easy edit. Although I'm using 3 cameras. We're using 3 cameras now. Nobody bloody cares. Because that's part of my enjoyment. The part is making a production, no matter how crap it is. I'd like to improve it, but it doesn't really matter. You wouldn't know. I actually did photography at one point. But I'm not a videographer, whatever that means. By the way, I'm still talking. I don't know why. I just want to say thank you for watching. I want to carry on, but I only want to carry on when I've got the energy to do it, which is why I'm not uploading it. I can't keep up with all that. I have to buy all my speakers. These companies do not like sending me speakers. Apart from, at the moment, the only one I'm in contact with is Tribit. We don't care. And it doesn't matter. But I'll just say, obviously, you know, these £200+ speakers, I can't buy them myself unless it's like once a month. And even then I can't keep up, and then it means I can't do all the other videos, and you tell me, oh, and this has been updated, that's been updated. I'd love to do it all like I used to, but I've got less time than I used to, and more speakers. That's the clue. Why are you still talking? I've got no idea. I'll see you in the next video. Thank you for watching. Thank you for the support, and world peace.
What the f*** was that?
It comes from China.
My speaker's got deep bass, balanced mids, and a bright high.
Yes, mine sounds exactly the same.